But you will see, everybody will see how all the core elements of this group, securitization, securities law, accounting, their underlying internal transactions that takes place before we fill out the application, and after we close, everything that's done behind the scenes, that's going to be prevalent in my actual response.
Welcome to this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Where knowledge is dark and ignorance is light. Episode 10, brought to you by the New Culture Empire.
But you will see, everybody will see how all the core elements of this group, securitization, securities law, accounting, their underlying internal transactions that takes place before we fill out the application, and after we close, everything that's done behind the scenes, that's going to be prevalent in my actual response. And it's going to tie in all the elements of the core elements of this group in this. So the company originates indirect loans. There you go, right there. A indirect loan. You notice how you notice how it's always going to state indirect loan, because a indirect loan is not a direct loan to the consumer. It's a loan to, in which there are installment contracts to secure their own loans, to secure their own. At this stage, at the auto purchase, you're not getting a finance through the dealership, so the dealership has no in your contract. That allows us to move them right out the way. A typical transaction goes: you buy a vehicle for $25,000, right? And let's say you got to pay $40,000 back. Inside of that $40,000, besides the government fees, taxes, and all that, you're going to be paying fees. You're going to be paying fees. You're going to be paying, which is your finance charge. So all your is the finance charge, which they account for as on their balance sheets. You're going to be paying fees. You're going to be paying contract. The problem is, instead of putting that as what they do is they bill right there those amounts. It's not really 25,000. It's really 10,000. From that's when they do their 23.99% APR, yada yada yada, that brings it to 40,000. But if you look on the back of your TILA disclosures, because your finance charge in 99.9999999%, just like a paternity test, 99.99999% of the times, is never really going to include the actual amounts that you're actually paying.
This episode was from the Supreme Elite Team class operated and ran by Thomas Legacy, the man behind the reform of pro se litigation. This class covered another master class on the merging of securitization, securities law, advanced accounting, internal accounting, and controls of finance companies, court rules, court procedure, and the unveiling of the Supreme Elite Team litigation model, an AI model that brings top professional litigators, securities law, accounting, securitization, tax law, and the knowledge of Thomas right at your fingertips, merged with relevant case law, court procedure, and strategy. This model allows pro se litigators to argue their case like an elite litigator. Getting beyond the initial stage in a civil court case is the biggest hurdles for individuals. Coupled with misinformation and improper interpretation, many consumers feel helpless when it comes to their lawsuits. This model brings Thomas 13 years of knowledge, along with the help of top professionals in the securities and accounting world, right to you. Be sure to follow the New Culture Empire for more updates and the official release date of the Supreme Elite Team Litigation model, powered by the Accrual Accounting Collection Agency, an independent division of the Supreme Elite Team.